Often as a society, we say to women, why don't you just leave? Well, my mom left, and then we spent the next 7 years being homeless. But when I think back, would I have taken the abuse from my father in exchange for food and a roof over my head? Probably. And they said that the pain is so severe, they get into bed and they atrophy.
Right.
And I said, okay, then I'm not going to bed.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Toughest Finish Line podcast with me, Jen Doan. We talk a lot about challenging situations on this podcast, and today's guest has had more than her fair share of these. From homelessness and trauma to world championship events, Lisa's story is a true example of resilience. So, welcome to the podcast, Lisa. Now, Lisa, we have had 6 episodes so far of the podcast, and every person who has come on has been so inspiring. And when I heard your story, I was like, we need to add Lisa to the podcast because your story is one full of inspiration with what you've been through. And I know when we first spoke, I initially heard your story and I went away and I had to sit there and go, I don't know how I'd have made it through what you've been through. Because we're going to go into a lot of these areas in a bit more detail, but you have been through some pretty tough finish lines, as the podcast title says. So to name but a few, we've got generational trauma, homelessness, cancer, a very scary bike accident, as well as battling with a diagnosis of fibromyalgia all day, every day of your life. And I think the word that we talk about a lot on this podcast is resilience. And you, I think, are the definition of resilience. So I wanted to start there because I think it will help us get to know you a little bit more in terms of what does the word resilience mean to you?
So there's kind of two categories. Resilience, I feel like everybody has the ability to be resilient.
Yeah.
And then there's the people who have the desire to want to be resilient.
Yeah.
Because to be able to bounce back and push back can be hard. And so it's not unusual for somebody to say, that's just too much for me, and to give in or to give up.
Yeah.
And for me, I not only am able to, as a human being, I want to be resilient. And I've always chose resiliency. Ironically, in college, my senior thesis was called Resiliency in Children.
Oh, interesting. Well, I didn't know that. So actually that's very fitting with this podcast. And I think, that definition and having it within you, but it's having that desire it sums you up from what I've learned about you in our conversations is you've got that desire and that bounce back to keep coming back after what you've been through. So we're going to touch on a few of the areas that I've just mentioned in a bit more detail. And the first one that I wanted to go back and talk about was your childhood, because I think the word childhood is that we get that stereotypical image of laughter and being at the beach and playgrounds, and it wasn't necessarily like that for you. So are you happy to just share what growing up was like for you as a child?
Yeah, I would definitely say that the laughter was me being laughed at.
Oh.
I mean, it was brutal. So right around the age of 7, my parents split up. And, it's a real big life lesson because often as a society, we say to women, why don't you just leave?
Yeah.
Well, my mom left, and then we spent the next 7 years being homeless. So just leaving isn't always that simple. And it was brutal when my parents were together. But when I think back, would I have taken the abuse from my father, which was just physical, in exchange for food and a roof over my head? Probably. because it was a whole lot less fun after we
Yeah.
left. And
Right.
so it was just about survival, absolute
Yeah.
survival. And ironically, and what are the chances that this happened? But um, after I graduated high school, I retrieved my cumulative file, and that's your file that they talk about. That goes in your file. That's the
Yeah.
file.
Yeah.
And I I retrieved that. I have no idea what prompted me to do that or even to know that you could get it. But I retrieved that after I graduated high school. And I just carried it with me for years and years and years. But when I finally took a deep dive into that, there's everything, all the details, all the proof, all the report cards, the teacher's notes, the psychological evaluations, everything right in front of me. It's mind blowing. And it does say that initially I shut down, and for a period of time, I was pretty much nonverbal. And
Right.
that was about 7, 8, 9 years old. And there was a psych evaluation administered, and it said I was fearful, shy, timid, unhappy, malnourished. And then around 9 years old, it says Lisa is very sarcastic. Lisa has a very smart mouth. So the way I look at that is Lisa decided to fight back.
Hmm.
And that's what I
Wow.
did. Yeah.
Wow. So you get this file which has kind of all the evidence really of what you went through, and the authorities, so education, they knew about it. And yet, was anything done?
No. No. And we know that they knew because I have the file where the
Yeah.
teachers made notes and mentions of it. They ordered a psych evaluation. So there was a reason for that.
Hmm.
And this is in the state of California. And it, ironically, I just saw a documentary, and it was about similar circumstances in the state of California being aware of the abuse this little boy was enduring and doing nothing. And his parents ended up killing him.
Oh
And I
gosh.
just watched this a couple of nights ago, and I thought, wow, not much has changed. So I was enduring that kind of lifestyle in the 70s and early 80s, and they knew and they did nothing. Nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. And as a child, it's you think adults protect us, adults keep us safe, and you just didn't have that, did you? And you mentioned something just then that I just want to pick up on, and you say, "Oh, it was just physical abuse," which it's not just anything. Physical abuse is not just on its own. It's horrific. And you had siblings, is that right?
I have 9 siblings.
Yeah, and so were they experiencing what you were experiencing? Were you aware of it?
Yeah, so at the time that we were living in the car, there was I almost said there was just 6 of us.
The just word, it has a very different definition for you, Lisa, but
Yeah. So there was
compared to the
six of us.
nine.
Yeah, 6 kids and my mom, and we were living in the car. So it was cramped for sure.
Mm,
Um, but the the kind of abuse escalated after my parents split up
right.
to the unthinkable. And I think that's probably why I'm flippant about just
Yeah,
being beat,
yeah,
because there are worse things than that.
right. Okay. And you're going through that, and your mum, like you say, your mum got out, she left, and you've mentioned about being in the car. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What was that, and what was that like for you?
It's it's a survival based existence. And it's almost broken up into time periods, and that's usually food.
Yes.
When am I
Yeah.
going to eat? You
Hmm.
know? And you think constantly about your next meal. So there's a lot of focus on eating, a lot of focus on eating. Um, and, the older I got, my focus changed because, by the time I reached junior high, socially you're at a different level than when you're 7 or 8 or 9. And
Of course, yeah.
that the kids are noticing too. So my focus shifted from when is my next meal to how can I pretend I don't live this life? How can I get the kids to stop making fun of my shoes? I remember one time they were roller roller shoes. So it's like a pair of tennis shoes with wheels.
Yeah, so
So
they call
not
them
really
kind of
roller
Heelys,
skates.
Heelys in the UK. I don't know
Yeah,
whether it's the same in America.
yeah, like that. So not the standard roller skates like at the skating
Yeah,
rink, but they look like tennis shoes. And so I was able to get the wheels off the bottom of the shoes and use those as my regular shoes. And I was just trying to fit in, and I thought that that would, make it where I didn't stand out so much. But the kids noticed, and
yeah,
they made fun of me brutally.
yeah,
And so you definitely shift from just, you know, when are we going to eat? Mommy, I'm hungry. Mommy,
yeah,
mommy, to how can I pretend this is not my life? How can I fit in?
yeah.
How can I get these kids to stop making fun of me? And you don't even worry so much about your next meal. As a matter of fact, so the junior high I went to, there were lunch lines. And you'd never see this today, but the free lunch line actually had a sign above that said free lunch line.
Oh
And
my
if you
gosh.
got free lunch, you stood in that line. Well, I wasn't having it because then they would all know for sure I was
Well,
poor.
yeah, it's just a beacon above your head, isn't it? Saying,
Exactly.
this is my situation.
And so I
Gosh.
wouldn't I wouldn't get my free lunch because I didn't want them to see me in the free lunch line. Yeah. So my focus was on fitting in
Yeah,
and being like everybody else, even though I
yeah,
knew that we are very different.
yeah. So at this point, is it right you're living in a car?
Yeah, a Gran Torino and a Chevy Nova.
Oh my
And
goodness.
we would just sleep like this, just stacked up in the
Just on your
back seat.
side. Yeah.
Hmm.
And was your mum kind of present at that point, or were you mainly left to your own devices?
She was not present whatsoever. What,
Yeah.
especially after the deep dive into that file and becoming academically educated and socially educated, what I've learned, and I completely understand now about my mom, if she were to have a proper diagnosis today, she would be diagnosed as a love addict
Right.
because she was in love with the idea of being in love.
Yeah.
And my mom didn't lay a hand on us. She didn't do drugs. She didn't drink. But if there was a man around, we didn't exist at all.
Right.
We were not a priority. If there was a boyfriend around, nothing else mattered to her but the boyfriend. She was just the driver of the car, but
Yeah.
she was not a mother to us. Not at
Right.
all. Yeah, it
And I
was
guess
very
it left
robotic.
you, yeah, yeah. And I guess it left you very vulnerable, because if she's idolizing these men, then no matter who these men are that they're being brought into your life and what they're kind of how they're being with you, I guess she favored them, maybe.
Always. And as a mom myself, a mom of 5, I find it really hard to believe that
Yeah.
she didn't know what these men were doing to us. And I do know that it was happening with my other siblings too, because as adults we've talked about it. I find it really hard to believe that she didn't know, but if
Yeah.
she did know, she didn't care. Nothing mattered other than keeping the man around, being
Yeah.
with them. Nothing
Yeah.
else mattered.
Yeah. And so, having your dad, how he was, and then that continual relationships with other men who were similar and carried out some horrific actions with you, how you got through that and how you kept going and trying to put on this persona that you are okay and you're fitting in, and that becoming your priority is that definition of resilience. Again, it's coming back to that, is you just kept picking yourself up and putting yourself out there. And so you're living in a car. Where were you getting food? Did you have money for things like school and education? How were you getting by?
So my mom was on welfare,
Okay,
and we would get food stamps.
right.
I'll say this, being poor, like a lot of things, it's a lifestyle. And you learn to work around the system. And my mom knew some tricks. So
Right.
everybody knows that welfare comes on the first of the month. And back in the day, I know that they're cards now, food stamp cards, but
Right.
back in the day, they were actually like pieces of paper, one, five, tens, maybe not ones, definitely fives, tens, and 20s. So what my mom would do to convert that to cash, she would give us one of the food stamps and we'd go into the 7-Eleven and we would buy one piece of bazooka bubble gum. And it would cost, 3 cents.
Yeah.
So then we'd get the change back in cash. And then
Right.
and then she would gather up the cash and do I don't know what with, but not feed us. And so I did rely heavily on friends from school.
Yeah.
You know, again, this is in the 70s, so you really did just go play until the street lights came
Yeah.
on. And you went in and out of each other's homes, and you opened the refrigerator and you ate whatever. And so I made sure that I would take advantage of that because I knew that might be the only time that I got to eat. And I also had a teacher and a junior high school counselor who I contribute to helping save me.
Right.
And they took me under their wing and they did everything they could. So when I was with them and I would babysit their kids, which it still blows my mind that they trusted me, you know?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, coming from an outsider's point of view, and they've got somebody who's described how that report and that manual of your life, if you like, described you as being that quieter and anxious child and things, and they're entrusting their children. But I imagine that must have been so rewarding for you.
It, it was, you know what it was? It was a peek into what life could be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's gigantic, because
Absolutely.
just a little window of what it could be kept me
Yeah.
motivated and
Yeah.
made me resilient because I
Yeah.
wanted that life. I actually, when I did my senior thesis in college, I went and I interviewed that fifth grade teacher and that junior high school counselor.
Oh, wow.
And I asked really bold questions. I wanted to know, did you guys know?
Well,
Did
that was going to be my literal question just then, like how they can invite you into their home to babysit their children and just not know. So did they not know?
they did know? Yes. And they told me that, so my fifth grade teacher, he said, yes, I was aware of your home life. He said, I remember hearing a story that you guys were sleeping in a garage on some seats out of a van. And he said, I went to the administration and I asked them questions, and they said just to make you as happy as possible during the school hours.
Oh
And he
my
said,
goodness.
but he said, I believed in you. And that's why I welcomed you into my home. That's why I let you babysit my kids. He said, because I knew you were special. I knew you were different. And I trusted you.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, yeah, they knew and they escalated it, but state of California didn't do anything about it.
It's
Nothing.
just absolutely mind blowing, and it just
I
makes
know.
you you know, knowing the rest of your story, the listeners don't know this part yet, but knowing the rest of your story, you've come through it and you're doing incredibly well now. But you think about those children who they've gone that other route, like you mentioned, that child who died in the end, and it's yeah, it's just horrific. It's awful to think about, and I'm so grateful that you had those teachers who did invite you into their lives to give you that insight, like we were saying, and get you determined that you're going to get out of this situation that you're in. And so you're living in that car. How did you get out of that? Where did it go from living in a car? What happened next?
So we were parked in one of our familiar spots in front of a 7-Eleven on Brown Street. I still remember. And my sister was mad about something. And she said to my mom, I'm going to call the people. So that's code for CPS when we were kids.
Right.
The people is Child Protective Services. She said,
Yeah.
I'm going to call the people and tell them we live in the car. And I was like, nope, I won't be here when the people show up. And I literally stepped out of the car and never looked back.
Wow.
Yeah.
So why didn't you want to be there when the people, the CBS turned up?
I mean, and still to this day, but especially back in the day, foster care was synonymous with more abuse.
Yeah.
And that people were just foster parents. Not all, of course, but just
Yeah.
foster parents for the money.
Yeah.
And I wasn't having it. I still felt like I had a degree of freedom living the way I did in the car, as
Yeah.
opposed to what if the rumors are true about foster parents? What if?
Yeah.
And I didn't want anything to do with it. I wanted to be able to still get my independence if it was at all presented to me. And I thought that going into foster care would cut that off. And so nope.
So where did you go?
My dad showed up. He had been MIA my entire childhood. I stayed with him sometimes, but he had a girlfriend who was not amused by my outgoing personality.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. And I I remember some nights I stayed at the nurse from my junior high school. She let me stay, and I just bounced around. And then eventually I ended up my last couple years of high school with my dad. And I graduated on a Friday night from high school, and I moved out by myself on Saturday morning. And then I did whatever it took to survive and to put myself through university. I waited tables. I was a maid in a hotel. I did whatever it took. And I really, really thought that I had to have a college degree. Like I thought that was really,
Yeah.
the end all. That's how you know you did it.
Yeah.
And I just did whatever it took, and I eventually got a degree in sociology, which has been really useful in my life because it's
Well,
the study of cultures.
yes.
And I can go anywhere in the world and interact with anybody and understand who they are because of where they come from.
I've been wearing Luca's cycling kit for around a year now, and it's genuinely benefited my training so much. Luca is a premium women's cycling wear brand created by women for women. Born from the frustration of ill-fitting gear and the outdated shrink it and pink it approach, Luca is here to set a new standard. For performance, for design, and for women, their pieces are made to move with you. Crafted in Portugal from high-performance Italian fabrics, tested by a community of female cyclists, and worn by GB athletes like Sian Rainsley. It's more than cycling wear. It's a movement towards empowerment, confidence, and redefining what women's sportswear should be. I've personally found Luca kit to be unbelievably comfortable, and particularly on those longer rides. But also it looks amazing and is super functional. It really does motivate me to get out on my bike. As a listener of this podcast, you can use my code ToughestFinishLine to get a little something off your first order at rideluca.com.
Wow. I mean, just going back to what you said about the resilience, your desire to keep on going is, I think it's just incredible because despite all the knockbacks and everything you went through with the abuse and the trauma, to keep getting up after all of that is just so inspiring. As I said to you at the beginning, I'm not sure how I would have done that in the same way, really. Was there, you touched on it with kind of in terms of seeing that little bit of glimmer of life, what it could be. Was there anything else that helped you to keep getting up and keep going and focusing on that college degree?
No, not really.
No.
It was just the idea that I had to save myself.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that was to push forward and climb.
Yeah.
And I thought, it actually worked. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It absolutely worked. It really did,
Yeah.
knowing your story now. And so going forward then, everything that you went through, and you've touched on that you held down lots of jobs to get through, to get money. You bed hopped basically in terms of from sofa to sofa to sofa, getting living wherever you could. So you graduated. What did you go on to do from there? Where did you go?
I actually became a high school math teacher.
Really?
With a degree in sociology. Now, I
Yeah.
will say what I did to become a math teacher, because it's called single subject. I tested out of the single subject for mathematics, and I was able to be a math teacher. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's like skipping all the university necessary to be a math teacher. I took one test, became a math teacher. And I still have relationships. Actually, just yesterday, I received an email from one of my former junior high school students.
Wow.
And she told me what an impact I made on her life. And I said to her, guess what? I have every letter and every card you ever wrote me.
Oh.
And I said, I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's lovely how you've turned that round to then impact students' life who are potentially going through awful situations themselves or struggling, and how you've used your experiences to support them is just incredible. And I know that Ironman events have been a huge part of your life. And how many have you completed, Lisa?
So a total of 18 Ironman events. 4 times, I think, 4 or 5, I left in an ambulance.
Okay, we'll come back to that. Okay.
My motto is leave with a medal or leave in an ambulance. And
I like that. At least you've gone out kind of given your all, haven't you?
I don't give up. Yeah, so that's landed me in a few ambulances.
Yeah,
I may or may not have thrown some fits in the back of the ambulances demanding to be let out. They don't let you out.
No, they don't. But you, and knowing you don't give up either. So I can imagine that desperate wanting to carry on. But what made you first take up doing Ironman events? What was it about the sport that you really liked?
Like a lot of people, it's just something that I fell into. So I have a really good friend who is an FBI agent. And he said to me one time, and he said, do you want to do a half marathon? And I was like, what is that? I have to look up and see how far that is. And I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, that's far. All right, I'll do it. Yeah, I'll do it. Why not? I remember running 8 miles and being so proud of myself. I couldn't believe I ran 8 miles. And so before that race happened, we ended up moving to Phoenix. And so then I started training in Phoenix, AKA the heat. Yes. So I was training on the canal, and it was so hot, and dust was getting me, and the little rocks were hitting me, and I thought, this is crazy. What am I doing? Mm-hmm. And so I still did that race with him. And then I was like, maybe I should get a coach. Mm-hmm. And I got a coach, and he was a triathlon coach.
Right.
And then it starts. And the next thing you know, you're signed up for an Ironman.
One thing leads to another, and you end up there.
And then you're in some body of water going, what have I done? And then you
Yeah.
swear you'll never do it again. You're on the bike at the end of the bike course and you think you're going to die, or maybe a truck will hit me. And then you get off the bike and then you're on the run course and you're saying all sorts of things to yourself about how stupid you are and you'll never do this again. And in
Yeah.
2 days, you're back on your computer and you're looking up the next race. That's how
Yeah.
it works. Yeah,
Yeah. You get the bug, don't you? And that
you do.
adrenaline high and the
Yeah.
highs and the lows of mid racing, but then that finish line high is next to none, isn't it?
There's
And
nothing like crossing the finish line. And I don't
yeah,
I don't get caught up in how quickly I go.
right.
Did I get a medal or not?
Yeah.
And I've done some of the hardest courses, including St. George, the inaugural year. I was crying on the bike course. It was so brutal, but I finished. And I don't care about my finish times at all. I really do believe that finishing is winning in an Ironman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so,
Yeah.
I think I've signed up. I want to say, COVID happened and things happened, but I think I've signed up for a total of 36 races.
Wow.
Yeah. So I
Wow.
finished 18, left in an ambulance and some, then COVID took away some. And I think during COVID I had 3 on my plate, but we couldn't race but
Yeah. Yeah.
uh-huh. Just one more race.
Oh, it's always just one more. So, what is it about the training do you think that keeps you going back? Do you think it's having that structure or that sense of something that you're working for? Is there something that it gives you?
Definitely the structure,
Yeah.
because structure motivates somebody like me. Because when you're a homeless kid, what's your worst enemy? No structure, and it makes you crazy.
Yeah.
And it's like a day-to-day torture. And so not only is training for an Ironman very structured, but you get to create the window of structure. So you're in control.
Yeah.
And kids who grow up like me
Yeah.
live a life that's completely out of control. And so I know that there's been a lot of talk recently about childhood trauma and endurance sports,
Yeah.
and they're onto something. 100%, they
Absolutely.
are onto something. And my connection is that's no accident.
No.
But I absolutely love the structure, and I love being in control of the structure,
Yeah.
because my life was so out of control for so many years.
Yeah.
And that makes you very vulnerable, very vulnerable.
Of course. Yeah. Of course. Whereas now you've got that control. It's your safe space, isn't it? That you
It is.
like kind of feel protected. That familiarity of training, and no matter how hard those hills are, or that wind is, or that run session is,
Yeah.
as you say, you're in control of
Yeah.
your
You're in
outcome.
charge.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so one area, I mean, we've spoken about so much already, but one thing we haven't touched on yet is your diagnosis of fibromyopathy. And so can you describe to us what that is and how that impacts you on a day-to-day life?
Yeah. So it's actually called small fiber peripheral neuropathy.
Okay.
And I'm a patient at Mayo, and Mayo does a really good job at deep diving. And you're not a patient at Mayo unless they say you can come to Mayo. And
Right.
yeah. And so what we've learned is that people with this condition, the number one cause, and we've all seen the commercial, do you have diabetic nerve pain? And then they show the ambulance, and then they show people getting their legs amputated, And so that freaks everybody out.
Yeah.
But that's the first thing they test for is diabetes. And
Okay.
so they initially were unable to determine and didn't really, like the initial doctors, didn't really deep dive. And then I got connected with the doctor that everybody talks about in the Facebook groups and stuff.
Right.
And so I reached out to him and I said, so I've been diagnosed with this. The regular causes I don't have, but I do Ironmans because I thought maybe I'd hook him, and he would
Nice.
be
Yeah. Yeah.
right. I thought maybe that will intrigue him enough where
Yeah.
he'll see me. And so that's
Absolutely.
Dr. Todd Levine. And it did hook him, and he's amazing. And so he's the one that did the initial deep dive, and
Right.
he did a test, and it diagnosed me as positive for, I'm not even sure because it's just a bunch of letters and numbers to me, an autoimmune disorder.
Okay.
And the number one cause of that is chemical exposure. And so he and I are in his office talking about this. He
Oh,
pushed the test forward to me and he says, "Look." And I said, "Wow, okay, yeah, I obviously have that." And I said, "How do you get that?" And he said, "Well, the number one cause is chemical exposure." And I said, "So if I was stationed on a military base that was shut down because of chemical exposure?" And he was like, "Wow,
no.
wow." And he said, "That makes sense."
So
Yep.
that's where you were when you were younger?
No, when I was married.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. hmm And we were stationed at,
Oh
it's,
gosh.
it's very well known. There's lawsuits galore and the government's
Yeah.
involved now. It's Fort McClellan in Anniston,
Hmm.
Alabama. And they did shut the base down because of the chemical exposure. And yeah,
Gosh.
so it's awfully coincidental.
I mean, yeah, bit of a big coincidence there,
Yeah.
isn't it? And so how does that affect you in your day-to-day life?
So, and this is how I think I got accepted into Mayo because they also were intrigued by my ability to do endurance sports with this
Yeah.
condition. And mostly when I go for a checkup, and I sometimes I go right before a race to make sure that, something bad won't happen during the race.
Yeah.
And they just look at me and shake their head and smile and just say, "Okay, go do that Ironman." Their philosophy is motion is lotion. So they
Right, okay.
encourage you to be active, but they always say to me, "We didn't say to do an Ironman. We just said get out of bed."
Yeah.
So I feel like I've been able to keep it somewhat at bay because of
Hmm.
my activity level.
Yeah.
I have noticed in the last few months, just out of the blue, I woke up, and so right now in my left hand, I only have partial feeling.
Okay. So is that one of the
And
symptoms, just numbness?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
that's one of the main
Yeah.
symptoms is tingling, stabbing, burning pains. And I did finally get brave at one point, and I said, "Why exactly did people die from this? How does this work?" Like I just want to understand it.
Yeah.
And they said that people actually, the pain is so severe, they get into bed and they atrophy.
Right.
And I said,
Okay.
"Okay, then I'm not going to bed because I don't want that. Yeah, I do not want
There's that
that."
resilience again
Yep,
shining
yep.
through.
Yeah. And so that doesn't hurt to keep me motivated, because
Yeah.
I'm not going to give up. I'm absolutely not going to give up. And I'm not sure if it's just finally caught up with me and that's why my hand is doing what it is,
Hmm.
but it's not over till it's over.
Absolutely. Absolutely not. And so you feel that the endurance sport is helping with those symptoms?
That's
Yeah.
what I tell myself.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Again, I probably don't have to do Ironmans, but motion is lotion. I mean, and it
Absolutely.
does. It makes you feel
Yeah,
better
of
to get
course.
moving,
Absolutely.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if the doctors can prescribe Ironmans. I think from all the podcasts we've been doing, everybody saying, how it helps.
I
I
have to
think we might
suggest
need
that to
to.
Mayo Clinic. Yeah.
I think if you could, yeah, I think it might be a good answer to a lot of people's
I'll want a
challenges.
referral from Ironman for that, but yeah.
Well, I'll take that. I said it first.
Okay, fair.
We'll split it. It's fine. We'll split it.
Fair. Yeah.
Okay, so you've done so many Ironmans, and one of the things that I know you have been working towards is the Ironman World Championships. And 2023, you got there. You were racing in the Ironman World Championships, and something pretty horrific again happened, Lisa. Do you want to talk about what happened?
I mean, the bottom line is I wasn't properly hydrated.
Right.
And so when I'm on the bike, motion is lotion. So I'm not in motion with my hands, right? You're in
Yeah.
arrow for hours and hours and hours. And so my hands started tingling and becoming numb, and I was unable to properly fuel. And
Okay.
I felt it. And every time I got to an aid station, I did my best. But, once you're super dehydrated, there's really no recovering from that.
No.
And so, I tried to catch up, but I didn't. And I don't clearly remember exactly what happened, but I mean, I know I was at mile 70, and based on the crash, I think I might have rolled to a stop. So maybe I felt something coming. And then the best guess is I just passed out and fell over as opposed to a full on crash. Just
Okay.
so, yeah, so that's what makes the most sense. But I do remember being desperately thirsty, and yeah, but I couldn't open water bottles or anything like that. I couldn't help myself,
Yeah.
and then the dehydration got me.
Yeah. And for the people who don't know, so the Ironman World Championships is in Kona, Hawaii, and it's incredibly hot. You're cycling through the volcano, the lava flows, basically black either side of you, and the heat just radiates off that road surface, doesn't it? And so dehydration is very real, and it's kind of a real danger. And if you can't open those bottles and can't get your hydration out, it's going to impact on you, isn't it? And
Absolutely.
so
Yeah, it's
what
a
happened?
recipe for disaster, dehydration
Yes,
there is.
yeah. And so what happened? Did you come round on the road surface, or where were you?
So, a police officer from Hawaii found me unconscious on the side of the road, and he called, I guess, the ambulance, or I'm not sure, he called Iron Man or somebody, but the ambulance showed up. Now, I will say, the doctor who was in the ambulance is now my friend. He was awesome. So, in the ambulance, we
Every
had a lot of
cloud.
time to chat. Yeah. Yeah, so he's my friend, and he was amazing, and yeah, I wanted out of the ambulance, but the police officer was smart. He took away my helmet, and yeah,
Clever,
he took
very
away my
clever.
ability to carry on if I was able to talk the ambulance people into letting me out. They've never let me out, but it doesn't mean I didn't want to get out. You know?
And when it's the World Championships and you're Lisa, you're gonna try and do your hardest
I'm
to
gonna
get out, aren't
try.
you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember thinking I could probably walk. It's only 42 miles.
Oh, only. It's that just again, isn't it? It's just 20, just 42 miles.
And then I can start the marathon. And I thought, oh, if I take off my cycling shoes, I can walk faster. And yeah,
I mean, these crazy thoughts that will
crazy
go
thought.
through your mind, but it's
Yeah.
that determination and drive in
And
you,
I'm
isn't it? That
resilient.
you,
So
yes,
my initial reaction is always to come out fighting,
yeah,
even when it makes no sense at all. You
yeah.
know?
Yeah. And I guess in a roundabout and very strange way, it's maybe one of the positives you can take from the trauma and the horrific things that you went through, that fight and that determination that you have within you, and that thinking of where's my next meal going to come from, it is that your brain is just switched into, well, how am I going to get through this? What's my next thing? What am I going to do? And so I
Right.
think that police officer did a very good job of holding your helmet back, because I really wouldn't put it past you that you would have got out of that ambulance.
Oh yeah.
And so were you okay? After, were you in hospital, or?
No, I didn't go to the hospital. I did wreck my hip pretty badly. My left hip was
Right.
pretty messed up, and both wrists were messed up. I've had surgery on one of my wrists. And yes,
Right.
I'm supposed to get surgery on the other one, but I have a race to do, so I'll have to wait on that.
Yes. Well, coming on to that then. So, I mean, and since then you've actually, I mean, I'm going to say it. You've also just had skin cancer as well in the past couple of years. So you've had a lot going on, but you've just kind of skirted over that and put that behind you, and you're healthy from that at the
I am.
moment.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. And so yeah, you've you've just put that one behind you as well, on top of everything else that you've been through.
I don't even think
Um,
about that. And I can't see the scar because it's on my back. And so out of sight, out of mind, I guess.
it's just skin cancer. It's this word "just" is a big part of this podcast episode. Um, but so yeah, you have got the opportunity that you are going back to Kona this year, aren't you? So we're less than 6 weeks out now, aren't we? You're
Yes.
going back because there's unfinished business, isn't there?
It it's it's something that just eats away at me. Having not finished, I can't stand the fact that I didn't
Yeah,
finish. And I just need to wrap it up, you know, and
yeah.
just one more chance. Just give me one more chance and let me finish. And then I swear I won't do any more Ironmans.
Oh, I'm not sure. I think we'll come back to that, Lisa. I think we'll do another episode about a month after Kona, and we'll very much see whether that is the case. But yeah, it's that unfinished business, isn't it? That
It is. And it is a mentality. It is a mentality. And that mentality is really drilled into me
yeah,
because that's the mentality that saved me,
absolutely.
you know? And just to be clear, I don't resent my childhood because I think that it made me the person that I am today, and it gave me, sympathy and the empathy to adopt a 14-year-old orphan from Kenya who's now a doctor.
Yeah,
But
amazing.
but for where I come from, I wouldn't have those sorts of thoughts and emotions and feelings. And all the lives that I've touched, it's because of the experiences that I have. And it's okay. Like I accept it. It's okay.
Oh, Lisa, I mean, you've just touched my heart, just how inspiring you are to have been through all that you've been through. Unthinkable and unspeakable things for a small child to go through, and to be able to say that I mean, I use the word inspiration a lot, but it really is. And I think I can learn so much from it, that we shouldn't be dwelling on things that have happened and playing that "oh, woe is me" card, that type of thing. It should be, no, let's pick up and let's carry on
Carry on.
and keep going. And
Yeah.
so if somebody is going through a challenging time, whether it be trauma, illness, mental health, whatever it is there a bit of advice that you would like to share with that person?
Probably the main advice that I would give is to initially save yourself. And it's
Love
okay to do
that.
that. It's okay to choose you.
Yeah.
Now, is it important to differentiate between having a bunch of bodies lying in your wake to save yourself? Yes. Don't do that, not at the expense of everybody else.
Yeah.
But it's okay to say, I choose me first.
Hmm.
And by saving yourself, you can save others,
Yeah.
and it's okay to do that as an employer, as a mom, as a spouse. It's okay to say, I choose me. And you
Hmm.
need to choose you first in order to progress. And no, it's
Yeah.
okay to do that. There's nothing wrong with
Absolutely.
saving yourself.
No, and I love that, because I mean, I personally, I get a lot of messages, people saying I have the mum guilt of going out and training because I'm leaving my child at home. And I try to reiterate that and say, actually, I know for me, I was a much better mum because I had been out and I'd been able to go out for a run and sort my head out, and then I could come back and be that better mum. And I think that's what you're saying, isn't it? Just
Exactly.
invest that time in yourself to then be able to come back and help others.
And my kids, I can tell now, all five of my kids are grown, but I can tell that they are kind of in awe because now they're adults, kind of in
Yeah.
awe of what I was doing along with
Yeah.
properly caring for them. And even my granddaughter, who's only 3 years old, she always says, I run fast like grandma.
Oh.
So even Phoenix gets it. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's 3 and she recognizes that it's different and she thinks it's cool. And when
Yeah.
I did the New York City Marathon, she jumped into the race with me and took my hand and said, "Let's go, Gamma." And the photographer, the race photographer, snapped a picture of it.
Oh,
Ugh.
that's
And I'm going to be gone one
amazing.
day, and she's going to be like at show and tell wearing my Ironman medals. And she's like, "Oh, that's
Yeah.
a cute stuffed animal. My grandma's done 18 Ironmans."
And she's crossed the finish line at the World Championships in Kona
Exactly.
as well.
Yeah, and when they
Yeah.
say, "Did she do Kona?" she'll say, "Yes."
Yes, she did.
Yes, she
Yes, she
did.
did.
Yeah.
Oh, Lisa. Well, I think it's that inspiration that you give so many other people, and what you're showing your family and your children, that no matter what you go through, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and but you've just got to have that desire, haven't you? That
You
desire to
do.
keep fighting, which is
Yeah.
what we started with.
Yeah. And even if you don't have the desire, fake it till you feel it.
I love
Just
that.
move forward. Just keep
Yeah,
going, you know, and it'll kick in because it feels so good when you
yeah,
realize the accomplishment, and
yeah.
that'll motivate you.
Love it. Fake it till you make it. Love it.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Exactly.
Lisa, I could talk to you for hours, and I know there
Thank
is.
you.
We've kind of pulled out a few areas of your life, and there's a lot more, isn't there? There's a lot bigger story. So if people do want to find out more about your story and hear about you crossing that finish line in Kona, where's best for them to go and do that?
So for immediate feedback, probably my Instagram page is at San Fran Lisa Ann, no E at the
Yep.
end.
AWN, yep.
And I do have an existing book. It's called You Can Overcome Anything. And that's a collaboration. And my chapter in that book is chapter 13. I have a pending second book that it's pretty much finished. I just need to focus and get it rolled out. And I did just finish filming for a TV show called Women in Power. And so it's a
Amazing.
documentary based show, and I have my own episode. So I just finished with that, and that should be out at the end of the year.
Okay.
And I also have a pending TED Talk about overcoming generational trauma. And it looks like that TED Talk will take place in the beginning of December. So any of
Oh,
those avenues, you can learn more about me.
brilliant.
And I'm open to any questions, curiosity. I'm unscathed by all of that. Yeah. So
Brilliant. Thank
anything
you.
anybody needs is fine.
Great. And I know that documentary potentially won't be aired in the UK, but the TED Talk, I'm sure UK listeners will be able to access for sure. So they can always give you a message as well if they want to know more.
Yeah.
But Lisa, thank you so much for sharing your story and being so open and honest about something that is, incredibly traumatic, but just the way that you've turned it into a positive and are now using it to help you cross incredible finish lines and to support others and inspire others is amazing. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And I cannot wait to be in Kona with you and to see you cross that finish line. Or you'll probably finish faster than me, so to see
I
you at the
will.
end, we'll see. We'll see. But I cannot wait for you to be able to close that chapter and finally get there. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.